All right, hello everybody. Dr. Alan Rudolph with Dynamics Health Solutions here today again with another episode of Creating Health and Wellness. Today we're going to be talking about the nervous system and its survivability. As you can see, a little formula here. Our nervous system is designed and programmed for one thing, and that's to promote its own survival. And in order to promote its own survival, it needs two things. It needs activation, it needs a fuel supply. Now, activation is things that we get from our environment. Environmental stimulus, sight, sound, taste, smell, touch, heat, gravity, all these things stimulate our receptors that then put that information back to the brain. See, our brain is a receptor-driven organ, and if it's not having stimulation to it, it can't be activated, it can't survive. And so what the big thing with the activation that we want to look at is things like sight, sound, taste, smell, touch. Those are non-constant types of stimulation, meaning we can close our eyes, we can plug our ears, we can be not eating things or smelling things, and that type of stimulation in the brain stops. But there are other types of stimulation that are constant, and these are the most important ones that we need to be considering, because that constant stimulation is what keeps the brain healthy. And the biggest receptors that respond to constant stimulation are the receptors that are in our muscles and in our tendons. They respond to gravity. See, gravity is a constant stimulation. As long as you're on planet Earth, you are constantly being pulled on by gravity, so your muscles are always responding to it. One of the biggest reasons we know this is so important is that when the astronauts were going up in outer space for the first few times back in the 60s, the biggest problems they were having was that astronauts were coming back suffering from space dementia. Essentially what they then realized was that because of the weightlessness, there wasn't any stimulation to their muscles, which then caused the breakdown of the different areas of their brain, causing cognitive problems. So one of the big things that they realized needed to do was to get the astronauts doing exercise. And so one of the big things that they put up on the space stations now is different forms and types of exercise equipment to help the astronauts, the cosmonauts, and whoever else is up there, to help stimulate their brains by firing these receptors that respond to this constant stimulation from gravity. So once again, activation is a huge part of it. And one thing we need to consider is the muscles that are the most important are our postural muscles, the ones that keep us standing or sitting upright, because they are of a non-volitional type of muscle fiber, meaning we don't have conscious control of them. So like our arms and our legs, we can move them around when we like to, or we can get that conscious idea to move them. But as I'm standing here, I'm not thinking about how the little muscles along my spine are keeping my spine straight. That's an unconscious awareness that your brain does for you. However, if the muscles along the spine become unbalanced and the joints of the spine start to not move as they should, we get decreased feedback to our brain because of the lack of movement within our spine. And so the most important feedback to our brain comes through the muscles that are responding along our spine. And the best way that we know to activate those postural muscles is through chiropractic adjustments. So if you're not seeing a chiropractor right now you have another reason that you should be finding one that fits for you, because they're going to actually help keep your brain healthy and not just your back and spine. Now the second thing we want to talk about today is the fuel supply that supports the survivability of our brain and nervous system. So when we talk about fuel supply, we're looking at two things primarily: oxygen and glucose. Now oxygen we get obviously from the air that we breathe. However, as we get every year past the age of 30, our ability to use oxygen efficiently becomes less and less. And so things like deep breathing exercises, yoga, tai chi, qigong, these types of exercises are excellent for us to increase our capacity to absorb oxygen. We as a society have become very shallow breathers, meaning that we tend to breathe with the upper third of our lungs instead of the lower 2/3. We become very high chest breathers, not low diaphragmatic breathers. We don't use our diaphragms like we're supposed to. And the majority of our oxygen gets absorbed in the lower portions of our lungs, but we're only filling the upper third. And so it's no wonder why people, by the end of the day, they've been sitting at a desk and they're not breathing deeply, that when they get home, they're tired. It's because they've been slowly depleting their energy reserves throughout the day due to the lack of not getting enough oxygen in their systems. Other part of fuel supply is the glucose. Now, glucose comes from our food, obviously, but more importantly, what I want to talk about is the foods that we eat contain tons of things that the human body has never been exposed to, only in the last 100 to 150 years. What am I talking about? things like additives, preservatives, colorings, artificial flavorings, artificial sweeteners, the toxic residue from the chemicals that are used to kill off the bugs and the fungus and other things on the crops when they're out in the field. These things are very foreign to the body and can interfere with the body's ability to make energy. And as those pathways become more and more poisoned, we become less and less efficient at making energy, causing more and more fatigue in the system, decreasing our survivability. So it's very important to get clean fuel into your body. So oxygen being one of them, and more importantly is your food sources that you're eating. Fresh vegetables, fruits, meats, those things all, the more organic, the more fresh, the closer to the farm that you can get them to your table, the better off you're going to be. The more things that you buy packaged in a store, the less healthy you're going to be, and you're going to actually decrease your survivability because you're constantly adding more and more stress to the body. I hope that enlightened you to some of the things that will help promote your own survivability. Once again, this is Dr. Alan Rulo with Dynamic Health Solutions, and remember, it's your choice to be able to create your own health and wellness.